The first time 𝐸𝐻 locked the bedroom door wasn't after a fight, it was after the silence. Yoongi had come home late again, face unreadable, words clipped. He hadn't said hello, hadn't looked 𝐸𝐻 in the eye, just placed his keys down, shrugged off his coat, and disappeared into the studio like 𝐸𝐻 didn't exist. It was the kind of silence that hurt more than shouting ever could. 𝐸𝐻 sat alone at the dinner table, 2 plates growing cold. He didn't cry, not anymore. Instead, he picked up a fork, moved food around without eating, and wondered if Yoongi even remembered what today was. Their 3rd anniversary. The next morning, Yoongi left early. Again, no words, no goodbye. That was when 𝐸𝐻 really knew that something in him had begun to close. It hadn't always been like this. They had once been in love, wild, bright, chaotic love. Yoongi with his quiet steadiness, 𝐸𝐻 with his laughter like sunlight. They balanced each other until they didn't. Until Yoongi's silences turned cold. Until 𝐸𝐻 started apologizing for things he hadn't done. Until love began to feel like walking on glass, no punches, no screaming matches. Just a slow erosion of trust, of safety, of 𝐸𝐻. One night, after another heavy silence stretched between them like a canyon, 𝐸𝐻 finally whispered, "Do you still love me?" Yoongi didn't answer. That was his answer. 𝐸𝐻 left the next morning, not with suitcases or dramatic goodbyes. Just a small duffel bag, a note on the kitchen counter, and the key to the apartment they once called home. Yoongi, I'm tired of being invisible. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. But I can't keep losing myself while you figure it out. 𝐸𝐻, the first week, was agony. 𝐸𝐻 stayed with Taeyoung, who didn't ask questions, just handed him hot chocolate. And put on old movies. He slept restlessly, his mind still clinging to the ghost of Yoongi's scent, the weight of his absence. But then came the 2nd week, and the 3rd. And 𝐸𝐻 began to breathe differently, easier, lighter. He started dancing again just for himself. Not for stage, not for praise, just because his body remembered joy. He cut his hair, bought a bike, spent afternoons at a tiny cafe in Hongdae where nobody knew his name. He was learning how to be alone without being lonely. 2 months later, a letter arrived. Folded neatly, no return address, but he knew that handwriting. 𝐸𝐻, I read your note every day. I started therapy. That's not to win you back. It's because I finally heard you. I know I made you feel like you didn't matter. That silence was safer than truth. I thought I was protecting us by holding it in, but all I did was push you out. I'm sorry. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see you, Yoongi. 𝐸𝐻 held the letter for a long time, not angry, not tearful, just uncertain. Weeks passed, then another letter came. Then a postcard, then a tiny notebook filled with Yoongi's handwritten reflections from therapy sessions, some honest, some heartbreaking. He wrote about his childhood, about growing up with a father who only raised his voice to criticize, about how love always felt like something earned, not given. When you left, Yoongi wrote, it didn't feel like abandonment, it felt like consequence. 𝐸𝐻 read every word, but he didn't write back. He needed to be sure Yoongi wasn't just sorry, he needed to see if he was different. Spring came slowly that year. One morning, Himmin was sipping tea on the rooftop when his phone buzzed. Yoongi, hey, would it be okay if we talked in person just once? He stared at the message for several minutes, then typed, okay, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Cafe Bomi. Himmin arrived early. The cafe was quiet, tucked into a corner of the street where they'd once gone on their first unofficial date. When Yoongi walked in, he looked older, not in a bad way, just tired, honest. He took the seat across from Himmin and said nothing for a full minute. Then, you look well. I am, Himmin said. You. Trying, Himmin sipped his tea. Why did you want to meet? I didn't come to ask for another chance, Yoongi said. I needed to tell you that I finally understand what I did. Himmin raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Yoongi looked down, hands folded. I made you question your worth. I used silence like a weapon, even if I didn't mean to. I made the home we shared feel unsafe, not because I hid or yelled, but because I didn't show up. I let you carry the weight of our love alone. And that was abuse, even if I couldn't admit it then. The word hung in the air. Abuse? Himmin didn't flinch. He just nodded. I needed to hear you say it. Yoongi looked up. I needed to say it. They talked for an hour about the past, about therapy, about the small, stubborn steps Yoongi had taken to rebuild himself. I used to think love meant never showing weakness, Yoongi said. But you were brave enough to leave. That's what love looks like. Himmin looked at him, really looked at him. There was no bitterness in his chest, just quiet. I forgive you, he said softly. Not because it erases what happened, but because I don't want to carry it anymore. Yoongi swallowed hard, eyes shining. Thank you. They didn't hug. They didn't promise to stay in touch. They just stood side by side, watching the light spill through the cafe windows. Two people who once loved deeply and hurt deeply, learning, at last, how to let go. 1 year later, Himmin performed at a small dance showcase. His solo piece was titled Weightless. In the crowd, Yoongi sat in the back row, quiet, supportive, respectful of the space. Between them, after the show, they exchanged a few words. Yoongi, you were incredible. Himmin, I'm happy. I hope you are too. Yoongi, getting there. No, I miss you. No, let's try again. Just. They smiled, and that was enough. Author's note: this Yeonmin story is not about rekindled romance but about emotional maturity, healing, and the bravery it takes to walk away from someone you once loved. Abuse isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silence that suffocates. This story honors the strength of boundaries, the beauty of forgiveness without forgetting, and the journey back to self-love. The end.